So this is a question that goes out to Miriam from Simplify. What was the craziest or the coolest application of AI so far? Please elaborate with a bit of problems and solution form.
So in general or from Simplify? Like from, I can say both perhaps.
Yeah.
Like in Simplify, I think the coolest thing is that we have the chatbot and can connect it to RPA solutions and other solutions that can perform tasks. So that you don't only have the chatbot that answer questions, but you also can perform tasks. And I think that would really change how customer service is in the future. And apart from that, I work with chatbots, so I'm really amazed by the natural language understanding. So I was really amazed by the IBM's project Debater, because with NLU we often have short texts that the machine understands sentences. But with the IBM project Debater, it could understand articles, whole articles. And what was the solution was that the IBM project Debater could debate against a human being. They said to the machine, okay, you should debate about this topic. And then the project Debater actually told a long line of arguments for and against. And then afterwards, after hearing the human being's arguments, then the project Debater should listen and then answer based on that. And I think, of course, was just a simple contest, but I think that this type of using natural language understanding will have a big application elsewhere, that you actually don't only understand sentences, but you could understand large amount of text. And I think that a lot of problems could be solved with this technology, I think.
Thank you. And you know, since we're talking about really cool AI, what about you, gentlemen? Would you like to share what was your, have you experienced any really cool AI that kind of inspired you or blew your mind away?
We tried using AI for one of our problems and it failed. So we decided not to use it. I can talk about that. We were getting a lot of calls from police officers because they wanted an interpreter, but they didn't know which language. They just said, I need an interpreter and I don't know what this person is saying. And we tried to solve it by trying to figure out just from the sound, from guessing, from calling up some interpreters and trying to figure it out. We figured, let's use AI. Let's build an AI tool that can listen to the sound and tell us which language is it. So then we can find the real interpreter who can help do the proper interpretation. We got a prototype working. We then started working closer with NRK, who also had a similar issue, and they were also working on exactly the same problem, trying to figure out what language is it. And they confirmed, and we also confirmed with them, that it's not possible, because AI does not know which language it is not. AI is always super smart and always makes a guess, and it doesn't know when it goes wrong. And we can't know if it's wrong because we don't know which language it is. So we figured, let's stick with the world map and ask the user.
Good one, yes.
So for me, I have seen an example of use of AI to building historical sites. That was pretty amazing when data scientists, they use technology, including AI, virtual reality, augmented reality, to build the sites from history. That was exceptional. Like, you know, you were telling like AI is going to take to the future, but sometimes AI also take you back in the history also. It's all about data. When you feed the data to AI algorithm, it has built historical sites for you. And this way, actually few companies in Spain and France, they are going to preserve the historical sites for the future generations. So that's pretty good for me.
Interesting, yeah. I think that applies a lot to India because some amazing sites there. Okay, the next one is, let me read the question now. It's not specifically directed to anyone. Kan chatbot løse problem, for eksempel spørre Hei, jeg kjøpte en PC fra Komplett med hjem på døren, leveranse, men den blir sendt rett til post i butikk. Hvorfor det? So, yeah. Did I read that correctly? Yeah, okay. So I think that's most probably you can start with.
Yes, so often when you solve a problem, then you would contact the right place. So a chatbot can send an email to the right person to say, hey, this has happened, please fix it. So yes, I believe chatbots can fix it, like a normal customer service person would do. Send the inquiry to the specialist or to the person who can solve it.
Thank you, Miriam. And there's a lot of questions for Miriam. That's next one as well, but please go ahead.
So we provide our services. We also have some integration with Google Assistant, and there you can actually say sentences like these. But of course, you have to ask us. You can't ask somebody else.
Thanks. Right, the next one is also to Miriam. The company I am working most likely use tech in a better way, but I don't know what we should do. Can simplify help? If so, how? Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we often go into companies and have a 3-day workshop with them, or not a 3-day workshop. We go 1 day with workshop, and then we go and into the company and see what kind of possibilities do we have here for automation and AI technology. So absolutely, we go into companies and see what are the possibilities and what should you do, how should you have your AI strategy. And we also go into partnerships with companies in such, we call it innovation partnerships, so that we can see what kind of problems they have and we will fix the problems, so to speak. Because often we have made a solution before we have the problem. And often that is not a good match. So we need to really understand what are the problems for us to make really good AI solutions. So we really want to go into these partnerships or go in and see the possibilities within the company.
Thank you. And Microsoft approach, would you like to elaborate?
I think that Microsoft approach is that instead of building direct solutions, we actually help other companies to build cool solutions. So we develop services which can help you to succeed with your customers. And this is actually core of digital transformation.
Oh, I think, yeah, because, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt the way you are doing things, but I have a question.
Sure.
About emotional intelligence and how this will affect or maybe not affect just develop, like forgiveness and this kind of things. Can we learn through artificial intelligence?
I think it's already in the place, and it's called as sentiment analytics, sentiment analysis. So if like this event is going on and there's a lot of tweets going on, and there are services which can actually sense how it is doing. So it calls as sentiment analysis, and actually a lot of companies are coming with those kind of services into their products. So sentiment analytics is there. Now your question, like forgiveness, I think yes, you can build it if you can build the model. You remember, at every AI solution at the core is a machine learning model, and if you can build a model and you can train it to forgive people, I will be very grateful to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's one of the core reasons why our interpreters are real people. The technology used to find them is the AI parts. But we always end up using real humans for the actual parts which matter.
Now we have a juicy question. Why does Elon Musk think that we should be afraid of AI? And what are the dangers? Or what dangers have you, gentlemen and lady, perceived as of now?
Should I start? Yeah. Well, I don't think we're there yet, because AI today is very specific. We create AI solutions to do specific tasks. But when or if we create a general AI or a super AI. That is what Elon Musk is afraid of. And I believe often the AI solutions that are mostly successful in the business world is where we teach it, we tell it some tricks. But for example, I like to use the chess example. Like, there are two ways of teaching a machine to play chess. You could either say, okay, this is the way big chess masters has been playing chess, and then the model would be quite good already at the start. But you could also just set it free, just play chess and see what happens. And I think that is what Elon Musk is afraid of, is that we will set it free in that way, that we will not code too much, because it will be better that way. But then we lose control a bit, because we will set it free. And what happens then when we set it free? So I think that's what he's afraid of.
I think he's right, that he scares that AI is going to be a little bit dangerous for us. But actually, this is what one of the point when it comes about being ethical when it comes about AI. So every company or everyone who is right now building AI solutions, they have to take care of ethics and privacy at first place. And you know what? Technology can always be used in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, and sometimes it can play bad against you, knowing or unknowingly. It can happen. So yeah, he's right, but not entirely.
Yeah, I've heard someone saying that we don't know how it will go berserk. We don't know how. We're too early to actually be afraid of this. Someone said that it is like being afraid of overpopulation on Mars, because we're not even close. So why be afraid of it? We don't know how the road will take to that place. So we cannot do a lot right now to prevent it, because we're so far away from that. But of course, we must have it in mind when developing AI technology further.
I think that's a good point, because one of the things that I personally fear is that, the Terminator example, but then I think, because right now we're building AI which are very specific towards different tasks. So until someone builds an AI that's sort of, a combination of all these different AIs put together, and which could lead to a type of consciousness, so as to speak, like we saw in Isaac Asimov movies, I, Robot, and so on and so forth, which goes beyond that one specific task, which is literally an image of a human being. And I think that will be the point. And I personally believe that governments, so just like we have GDPR now, we should have sort of an AI regulatory commission, like Dubai has the Ministry of AI. And then, so we actually regulate, this is just my point of view, but then, I think companies like Microsoft, who have the power to sort of initiate these type of things, Google and IBM and so on, to say, okay, AI should be built, but only task-specific AIs, not general AIs that solve, drive your car, pick your groceries, drop your kids, and yeah, everything in between. So on and so forth. So that's it could be a long way, but then the technology is already there for us to combine it. So that's, I think, what Elon Musk is worried about as well, because the tech is there. It's just somebody just putting it all together. Cool. Should we go on to the next question? Any more questions there? Only for deep learning purposes. Okay, that doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, only for deep learning purposes. Is Miriam single?
No, my boyfriend is sitting there actually, so no.
Let me turn the camera to his eye. It's okay. You can just show the camera on your screen, a face on your screen. Okay, Microsoft. What Microsoft Norway does locally with AI is No. That's kind of a half question. What Microsoft does locally with AI in Norway?
Okay, it's a good question. So I think there is a counter question. What all you can do with AI? I think first thing is that you have to educate yourself in AI. What is AI? How to use it? And of course, ethical use of AI. So the department where I come from, Customer Success Unit, we are helping customer to build ethical AI solutions. And of course, we have Microsoft Development Center here. They are actually developing a lot of products, mainly based on search, and AI is a big part of that. So we are heavily involved with AI in all of the products we are building.
Okay, so this is a question from what I showed. Couldn't keep my big mouth shut. So what happens with the women from India after the model is sufficiently trained? I guess they just move on to training other type of AIs, right? Because it's not just cancer cells you need to detect, you need to detect a billion other things, right? Is she blonde? Is she curly? Is he, Caucasian? So what not? Is this beer? Is this cola? Is this a mic or is this a lightsaber? So yeah.
I think it's also important to understand when people don't have a job, they're looking for a job, or they don't know that they could have a job, and they get this opportunity to do some data mapping and to identify things. They learn to use a computer, they learn to use how the internet works, they learn processes, they learn how to work in a business environment, they learn what a 9-to-5 job is like. So essentially they're getting training into how to work. So on the one side, it's impossible for them to not ever need to identify documents and identify things, but it gives them a learning opportunity to figure out how to work in a business. And that they can take forward to other places. So it's not that they're being exploited to figure out what's in the picture, they're also getting a learning into how to actually get into business.
I assume that those ladies who have worked such a skillful task, at least they have realized that if they can think about doing something, they can learn something new also. So they have actually unlocked their imagination and their productivity. So I don't think so. The world has just started for them.
I think that I could not agree more with you, because that's taking some uneducated person from the most rural part of the world and making them train AI is in itself so insanely cool, right? So, okay, then where do we fit in with all the luxury we have in Valhalla here in Norway, and everything at our fingertips. So basically that particular video I showed you just to open your minds to show how much luckier you people are. If AI can bring jobs to those people, just imagine the potential it can unlock within all of you here. So that was the point there that I wanted to make. And should we move on to the next question? So is AI creating jobs in the short term, but to a higher degree replacing jobs done by humans in the long term?
We were just talking about this before the panel. Personally, I think we all had three different answers, but personally for me, I don't think AI is going to remove jobs. Jobs themselves are safe, just jobs in a different company. It's the businesses themselves that will change. Because an entire business needs to understand, where do I stand when the world works in a different way? We don't use travel agencies so much. Do you still call people to book your flights on SAS? What happened to those people? Are they jobless now? They're fine, they got other jobs. So there'll always be jobs, there'll always be work to do. It's just businesses that used to exist will now exist in a different way.
I think this goes same back to my example of when a computer were introduced, many people were scared that they are going to take away their jobs. But if we see the time, actually computer creates more jobs. And I think this is going to same with the AI. there is a lot of imagination still left out there in the world. What can be done with AI? And if that imagination is going to play a role, believe me, there are going to be more jobs created.
I would just like to mention an example from Aftenposten, a newspaper in Norway, because they had a lot of telephone sellers calling to people to ask if they wanted a subscription, and they thought about perhaps cutting down on these telephone sellers because they didn't generate enough value. But after they applied an AI solution to find which people would actually be more likely to renew their subscription or to buy a subscription, then the telephone sellers were much more valuable, because then they were more like that they called people who really wanted that subscription. So that it was no doubt about that they should not cut out those telephone sellers. So in some times AI solutions can generate more value to those human beings already in place and not cut the jobs. But we don't know, perhaps the telephone sellers could be a robot as well in the future. So we don't know, actually.
At least we can team up with Sarah Connor and start fighting the Terminator, so there's some jobs there. And yeah, so let's, if I'm to just add something to that, I mean, there's this analogy when, back in the days, we had to weave to make material. So that was a big job because, farming and then taking the thread and weaving it into material. And then came the automated weaving machine, which suddenly where people lost their jobs as material manufacturers. But then boom, came the fashion industry because, which is a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry. So with each iteration and each evolution, a new set of jobs are created. When IT came, suddenly there were jobs for tech, support, and all this AS400, maintenance people, and then cooling for cloud storage providers, and also so every technology comes with it comes challenges, and that's where the jobs are. At least that's what I feel. And so with AI, the challenge right now that, like I showed earlier on, is to train the AI to start with, and later on, it could be disciplining the AI if there is something like that, or something of that sort, training emotions into the AI. So, and then we're not just talking about AI here. There's so many other technologies, amazing. I mean, there's a company that specializes only on drone photography, which is a business that didn't exist. And today, they're one of the coolest, they've been photographs taken of ancient sites, which is never been seen by human beings because they're so inaccessible, and because of drones. So because of every technology, there's a new, not one, but thousands of new jobs being created. So it's about opening your mind, and that's what we here at Media Monday try to do as well, by giving you all these examples, and it's just to see what are the new areas these jobs are going to create. So you have to uneducate yourself from where you're currently and re-educate yourself based on this new technology. If, that's just my point of view. And yeah, can AI fix this problem with the sound? Eventually. Okay, I think we're down to the last question. TikTok, very good question. Are you at break-even point, or are you making any money right now?
We're at half burn rate, so we're making half the money that we're spending. And we have TikTok, which is our platform for interpretation. We also white label our platform to other companies who need a booking system for skilled workers. Because on our platform, you can book someone who speaks a different language, but essentially it's a dashboard where you can book someone for a certain set of skills to come and do some work on a phone or video or in person. So it's a single platform for any kind of work, and we make money from interpretation and also licensing our software. So we're half.
Cool. Yes.
I have a question. Do you think that AI can take away the power of the people, disempowering? Because of Hawkins, I mean, he had his views on this, and is it going to take our power away from the human being? And I just would like to add, when people who know nothing are feeding these machines with information which is telling us what to do, is that also a form of disempowerment to the human being?
So if I understand your question correctly, you mean to say that is AI is going to make us weak, or is it going to make us more empowered?
Taking away our responsibility, empowerment, yes.
Yeah, I think I understand what you mean. There's a few parts to your question, because
Yes, it is.
on some level, yes, of course, it will disempower us. We're giving away the rights to actually make the decision. That's why it exists, so we don't have to. But the first part is, we're trying to make life easier for ourselves. So we're building AI models that do specific things that we don't want to do. For example, we don't want to identify all the pictures in the room. We don't want to identify all the stop signs on the road. We want something else to do it. So we're, in a sense, people who are willing to use AI are willingly giving away that power. That's a choice people need to make. At some point, it might be forced on us, because if suddenly we're in an AI-driven bus, and that's the public sector transport solution, well then the government is forcing us to disempower ourselves by not having a driver. But that also, I think, it's a longer debate, because the person driving, maybe that person is more tired and the AI is better at it. So, in a sense, yes, there will be disempowerment. I think there'll still be a choice for quite some time. There's going to be a choice on us to willingly use it or not. For example, we use the face unlock on your phones, or we use the fingerprint on laptops. We're disempowering ourselves. We're giving away the right to know our password.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on those easy levels, I think for me it's fine. I think it's a personal choice, but on the easy parts it's fine. As we move towards the more difficult decisions in life, that's where it gets a bit more tricky. I wouldn't want AI deciding end of life care.
For example.
Obviously.
For example.
Yeah. If that happens, I'd probably blacklist that hospital and say, no, don't put me there.
Yeah.
I think that gradient is where we need to come in and decide, when do we put the stop sign. Before the GDPR, there was no stop sign on privacy. No real stop sign on privacy. Now there's a pretty big stop sign saying you cannot go beyond this wall. And that's something that we need to fight for and actually put in place.
Exactly.
So some rules for AI stating that AI can't automate critical things, or what does it mean to be a critical service. And that also is a national security thing as well. So if AI is taking over critical services, then that can be something to...
It's spooky.
Yeah, it's spooky. So, as long as it's fun and games, I'm quite happy with AI. And the line is where it starts actually affecting our lives.
Yeah.
For example, in Miriam's example, in one of her first slides, she mentioned the low cost of mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So as long as the cost of a mistake is low, AI is perfectly good and will actually help us. But it's up to us to decide at what point is the cost too much, and what rules do we have in place to stop it from going beyond that. That's why, again, for TikTok, we only offer interpretation with real people and certified people. We follow the certification levels for each country. So Norway has standards where people have to pass an exam to prove that they can speak Norwegian and a different language and interpret between them. So when you book someone, you get an actual interpreter who's a real person on the phone or on video or in person.
The combination.
Yeah. But then when you book a person, that part can be automated. You don't need to talk to me to book someone. We can AI that part away. But the actual conversation, which is critical, where the cost of mistakes is immense, is huge. There you need a real person.
In cybersecurity, Microsoft.
I think that, if I take, because I mostly work with Azure, we have automated systems over there protecting our cloud. There are some intelligent systems, AI driven, which are making sure that whatever you have that in cloud is actually secure. And it keeps on learning. So, it learns from the new threats update the database or the model, and next time it is prepared to handle that challenge.
And it's impossible to hack it?
Nobody has hacked until now, so I say until now it is impossible. Future, yes, we are trying our best to make it impossible to hack.
Great, thank you.
I think that should always be added with it. It's impossible. So things can be made impossible to hack. But it's very easy to have social engineering to just find out what the answer is. So it's one part to actually protect it from the software side, but the other side is to protect it from the business operation side as well. So in a sense, you could say that everything is encrypted and nothing is visible to anyone ever, except the developers who have full access.
Spooky.
Because they need access. So then, of course, you need the operation side to also enforce some rules.
Yeah.
So I think on the software side, we're actually very good at securing and encrypting and protecting our data. The mistakes we make are usually on the people side.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, well, one of the cool sentences came out is, let's AI that process. I like that from Gautam. You know, so whatever the difficult situation comes up, yeah, let's just AI that process. Yeah. But thank you very much.
But I think I have to add, you know, I drive an old car, a 2006 model, and one thing I really miss in that is like automated parking,
I agree.
automatic braking. So I can give you an example. I was driving with my wife in my 2006 car. I love it. Believe me, I love my car. But there was somebody walking in front of my car, and you know, I was not able to see it.
Yeah.
And even my wife was not able to see it. But thank God in the last moment I saw it and I braked it. There was no car behind me. But if there was a car with an automatic braking system, I would have saved from that pain and actually guilt.
Yeah.
Because you know, after 5 minutes, my legs were shivering.
Yeah.
So technology, as of today, is mostly used for, you know, making your life easier.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question. I see a lot of the top universities, they developing a lot of the humanistic creative attributes like creative art, music, even developing emotions, even though that's still a long shot, but they have been fairly successful in having AI create artistic masterpieces and
Really?
songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I used to discuss with my colleagues, saying that that is a humanistic attribute. AI can never do that, but there they are doing it. So what do you think kind of humans, what are humans, what is our place when it comes to AI? Once AI can essentially engineer its own
It's a good
robotic
question.
body or transfer itself or have connected to the cloud and IoT. I know it's probably like 100 years, 200 years, but where would humans be if AI could transcend us?
Good question.
Actually, it's a very visionary question. And there are multiple parts to it. I think there is a lot still to be discovered what me as a human being can do.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I still have to learn swimming. I still have to learn some other things. There are a lot many things which I still need to learn. Of course, machine already know that. But once I will learn these things, and remember, AI models, they are going to be trained by the human beings. So don't think that, you know, AI is going to completely replace human beings, because I have not seen future, but I'm sure that the combination of human intelligence and AI intelligence will be always there. We are still living on the Earth. We still have to go on the Mars. We still have to go out of this galaxy. There's a lot of future over there. And by the way, these people who are working in university, they are actually doing a lot of creative work. And then your example of that with the music, actually I have seen one example from Microsoft where a human and a robot, or not robot but actually a AI system, were rhyming with each other. Of course, human won, but actually that software actually took the challenge, and I think it went for 2-3 rounds before it gave up. So that was really cool, you know, it was really making songs on the fly and was singing.
But you know, art is special because sometimes I go into a museum and I see an artwork and I thought I could do that. but I'm not an artist. So often it is the name of the artist that is important. And so I don't know if I would go into a museum to see art from AI, because it doesn't have a name, or I think often it is the artist's signature that is the art for me, at least.
Your examples were from universities, and I think the marketing side of AI is very strong about the topics that people work on in universities and the topics of what happens in 100 years. But when you look at the business parts of it, we're making a booking platform, a chatbot, and online services to use cloud servers. So when you bring it down to the ground, all of us are using AI for making a business solution to a problem faced by running a company or running services that will solve a core issue. In universities, they have the luxury of working on music and art, which is of course very good, and people should work on it. And those end up resulting in softwares that we can use for our businesses. So I think on a visionary scale, it is correct to think that at some point AI and at some point technology will be at a place where it will think for itself. But on a step-by-step scale, we're still putting together the bricks, and the building is not even up yet. So we'll find out on the way.
I think I would just like to add is that, for example, let's say, I love bikes and cars, and like just about every other guy. And if you're supposed to make a really aerodynamic bike that also looks cool, then you can just take all these particular points and just give it to a creative AI to say, okay, not just build a bike, but build a bike that looks cool. So I think those type of experiments are really important to sort of inevitably come into the production line or into the business field, because then you say, okay, I want to build a house in Rajasthan, for example, but this is the weather, and this is the climate, and this is the blah, 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 blah. So I need to give all this information into AI and say, design a house that, naturally cools it, eco-friendly and all that kind of stuff. But
that's another job for designer. That's an architect. That's somebody who, designer.
Exactly. So when you have something like AI, you go 100 steps ahead, because an architect is limited to his architectural knowledge, but here it could integrate all the weather patterns and all the natural flow of light and so on, and then you could integrate if it should be IoT in there, or it should be running on a AI platform within itself, and then also if you could you could replace, okay, this kind of sounds bad at the beginning, you could replace the architect, the engineer, and so on and so forth, and just tell the AI, build this. Or if you're building a bridge, for example, which is a better analogy, you just tell, okay, I need a bridge from point A to point B, and the AI automatically gathers all the geological data, wind and traffic and, climate and, population data and everything, and also you say, okay, I want this to look like, I don't know, Michelangelo's design or something, so it infuses that into it. So I think this type of experiments are really cool, because we can really express ourselves in ways that we could never express as human beings, but using AI. Is there another question there?
I wanted to hear your opinion, because the AI, there are different waves, and the AI it started already like in the 60s or in the 70s, but back then they used expert systems, and then it was that you model knowledge. So you have people, experts, that have been working 30, 40 years in a specific field, and the idea was to model that knowledge then into a computer, so that you don't need that human expert, but that you can replace that human expert with a computer. So he's not learning new stuff per se, but you can make great use of that guy, and you can duplicate him as many times as you want, and use him in as many projects as you want. And but now the new wave is more about this deep learning, and where you have this black box, and you put something on the input, and then you get the expected output. but the black box stays a black box, and if the computer makes a decision, it's very hard to see why he has made a decision. And in that respect, I actually prefer the old wave, the expert systems, because then you could at least see why the computer has made that specific decision based on what rules, and you can go all the way back. So somehow it looks like that they haven't cracked the code yet where you can combine both worlds, because if the computer makes a decision using deep learning, it would also be good to know why he has made the decision and based on what rules, and then combine this expert system where you model existing knowledge together with this deep learning, where you also have the opportunity to learn new stuff to the system. But still, in many application areas, you don't need to learn new stuff. You need to make this decision, you need to make a recommendation, and there the value of knowing why the recommendation was made actually weighs up to this black box that maybe has the superpowers and can learn more stuff, but at the same time doesn't reveal what the decision is underneath. So I think that both waves, both like directions are still very relevant, because you cannot just say that deep learning is going to take over everything and that expert systems are obsolete because this is old school from the 70s or the 80s, whatever, because there you have really that reasoning and that knowledge that the decision is made based on this and these rules, and you also have to, like, if you want to model that, you have to challenge these experts to get the knowledge out of their system and really put it in the right way into the computer, and you have to do an extra effort, because now with this deep learning you just give the computer and he will do everything, he will learn the neurons, he will put the switches in the right order, but it seems too easy. I mean, you just use a lot of computer power and then you give everything up to the computer, but you don't use the experts as such, and you don't use the skills to get that knowledge out of these experts and to involve the domain experts. I think now we should not forget about the past, and we should still try to improve that skill which they had already in the 70s and 80s, to get that knowledge from these experts, to have these domain experts, and to really try to model that in a computer, because then when the decision is made, you also get at the same time the explanation why the decision was made, and not just a black box with some switches and offs. It's my opinion. I want to hear what's your opinion about that.
Happy.
So I think that it was I think instead of a question, I think it was more like a statement, and to some degree it's a valid statement. I think still at many places I prefer to have human intelligence or human working for us. And you made one very good point, which I will think after this event, is actually when a human being takes a decision, it gives you the reason, like why it came to that conclusion. I don't know whether the current AI system really tell you why it came to that conclusion or not, but you know, I don't see long in future when this can also be made actually. But yeah, I agree with you. Somehow we have to preserve the domain experts which have the real knowledge, and so yeah.
It's a really good question.
That's what I think actually.
So we are actually using a lot of expert systems. We may not be using them in the same way as they were designed back then, but most businesses operate in certain processes, and those are defined by business reasons, by business logic, or by experts in the field who say this is how it should flow. So a lot of business actually is effectively built on expert knowledge. And what we're now doing is using AI for some of those things. And I think that's where the decision comes in, where are we using AI for things that have low cost of mistakes and things that will have low risk. So having a pure black box which never explains why I take an action, and the answers have to have a huge risk, it's not proper to actually use that upfront. But I think, in a sense, we already are doing the things you said. We have the expert part, and the AI part is coming in slowly.
But I think you can perfectly combine that, because you just need a lot of granularity. If people are familiar with this word, you break up the problem in a lot of microsteps, and then for each microstep you have this black box. So instead of having this huge giant black box where you put something on the input and then you get something on the output and then you don't know anything what happens underneath, you can actually solve that by breaking it up in microsteps and then have like micro black boxes, and then you don't care because then the decision made is either yes or no. So if it's a black box, then you say he has made the decision yes or no on this specific decision, and then you can combine the best of both.
That's how neural networks work on the lower level inside the black box. And at each layer it gets exponential. So when a black box has, let's say, 5 neural nets and 10 layers, that's 5 to the power of 10 5 times. So the microsteps are insane. It's
but
not.
You should annotate then decisions, because maybe you can find a hook to like annotate operations in the black box, so that we expose them to the outside world, so that even if it's a black box as a whole, that you can instrument some of these decisions and then have a hook externally, so that after he makes a decision, that you can say this and this and this and this constellations have been drawn.
That's a learning neural network. So that's actually how it works. It takes answers from the middle of the steps and puts them back to the front and loops from the middle.
Yeah, but you have to expose it to the outside so that you know what he has been doing.
Yeah, that is there. So learning neural networks work like that, and Google's speech recognition works using that. I think sometime early last year, Google's Google Translate for Norwegian improved significantly because they implemented it and took it live. So when they took that live, Norwegian and Google Translate went from mostly wrong to mostly right. And that switch happened early last year.
I think